Hey guys, we're going to look into AutoZen today. In the Agentic AI, there is a lot of progress that's happening from across the industry. As AutoZen is one of those libraries from Microsoft. It's open source. It's out available in GitHub. You can download and play with it. Within AutoZen, there is a library module called Magentic. They're converting Magentic 1 into AutoZen, and even AutoZen is actually being spun up into a new rebranded form. And with Microsoft. So let's look at this example code here. I have Magentic 1 code. This is gonna be, if there is a script to run, this is gonna be running in a Docker. So ensure that you have Docker running in your device. And for safety precaution, you always want to run scripts in Docker. And if possible, you want to run your code in a virtual box, a virtual like operating system as well, just in case if there is any malicious scripts that it runs and tries to mess up your environment. In this code example, it includes different reasons, including multimodal web surfer, as well as there is a file surfer, there is an executor coder, right? So there is a list of agents, and there is an orchestrator which basically takes back and forth, takes the core of thinking as well as planning and orchestrating activities across different agents to arrive at the final result. The multimodal web surfer can use the Chromium installed, so you have to make sure it's installed in your device before being able to run this. It'll browse, and if we provide save screenshots, it'll also save screenshots, and which is super cool to look at. So that's about it. Let's go ahead with the run example down here. So I just ran example.py. We have to specify the logs directory, and then I did -- save screenshots. So it's going to save screenshots of the web browsing. Now, once I run this, it asks for a user input, and I gave a user input, browse the REST API for CyberArk at that location, and write Python script for an ETL application that gets all user information, include login authentication using Windows login. In the script, I'll put placeholder variables for any environment variables needed to make the code work. I gave that because, obviously for actually fetching CyberArk data, for the script to be executed here by the executor, you'd need those credentials. So the script would obviously fail when trying to test and run it, but it will at least build the script with the placeholders. So somebody, a developer can just grab those screens, the script, and then, use it in their code and plug in their environment variables as needed. So now, given the command, the user proxy gets us information, the orchestrator is putting thoughts, it made an initial plan, and to answer this, we have assembled the following team. So it basically put like a web surfer, executor, and file surfer. And what are the initial fact sheet to consider? It took what are the given or verified facts, what are the different facts it needs to look up, and different facts to derive, and educated guesses it has to make. So this is super cool. Like, it's basically making API calls with OpenAI and coming up with a very detailed plan and making guesses and all to execute the requested ask. Now the orchestrator goes with, and then with the web surfer, it's browsing the web page, it's extracting the information, going through the OCRs to recognize what are the different contents in the web browsing page, and basically drilling down through the web page to identify how to go about setting up the Windows authentication and then get the user's information. So it's super cool. It went back all the way through and then built a Python script. It's fairly a basic script for authentication using a request module and NTLM for Windows authentication. Fairly straightforward, fairly simple, nothing of an extraordinary or complex. It's not building a client library per se, but making a simple request API call. And so we can see the stages it went through the file surfer out here in the screenshots. That's a big browser screenshot, and it's identifying different components, and it's gonna go put in that URL, and then it went in there identifying different text and components within the screen, and it just goes back and forth, making sense of it from a browser itself to go understand and build the code. And that is super powerful. Once this thing matures, once there are more and more libraries, more and more toolkits or tool sets that agents can use in a reliable fashion, a lot of the knowledge work that, let's say, developers and analysts have been doing would be taken over by agents. Assuming, some of this information is something that you can make back and forth API calls with OpenAI or some open source LLM provider with multimodal capacity. Given the scope of what you're trying to solve is something openly available information, and you're not exchanging any enterprise information out there, agents are already becoming quite powerful, and the potential for it is huge. We are at kind of a huge point or time zone in our future ahead where agents could be taking over a lot of work, a lot of automation. It's gonna be a new age of robotic process automation where different knowledge workers components get plugged in, and people would be supervising, tweaking, and maybe adding some specific customization on top of a lot of work produced by AI agents themselves. So it's a pretty cool library to start. It gives you a sense of how things are moving, and a lot of super cool stuff out there. One of them is AutoZen and Mazentic One. So give it a try. I'll put the URL out there. Thanks.